With week 14 of the NFL season here, with week 14 already kicked off to a high octane start with the Thursday night's game. Sunday's matchups, however, leave quite a bit to the imagination. There are several matchups that leave much to be desired. Meanwhile, we have one matchup that has 3 million reasons why it needs to be played. Want to find out what that matchup is? Stay tuned to find out on Gridiron Gab Pro Style.
The autumn winds move like the thunderous waves of Neptune's sacred palace. And here, amongst the blackened soil, lies the ragged hands, worn, torn, and callous. They await with cunning and vicious prowess, for the warriors have returned.
Come on, Dutch! Don't do it! Woo! No way! Woo! 85! Crying out loud! You're making me driving me nuts!
But behold.
Welcome back, all you gabbers. Thank you so much for hanging out with us for a little bit. Of course, you're talking with the one and only Mr. CeeLo. Back at it again as we hit up week number 14. Things are getting very interesting, as you guys know. But there's not much to report here. You guys have been not very active in the last couple of weeks. So we'll just go right into the games. But I hope you guys are doing great. Hope all of you are getting ready, hunkered down, because it's very chilly across the states or wherever you're watching from, but that's where it is right now. It's very, very chilly. But let's dive right in, shall we? Jacksonville, the 2-10 Jaguars versus the 3-9 Titans. Now, this probably is going to be one of the most intriguing matchups of the week, being that both of these teams are basically an exercise in futility. You've got one team that is without its starting quarterback, and one team that has dominated this matchup in their backyard, which happens to be the Tennessee Titans. But once again, we're looking at two football teams who are having trouble at the quarterback position, and needless to say, it's an exercise in futility as we look at. Whereas the Tennessee Titans have slowly started to show some promise, as the Jacksonville Jaguars in many ways just can't get out of their own way. Now, I will say this. There is an exercise where the Titans are now trying to decide whether or not Will Levis is the guy moving forward. And honestly, when I look at this roster, and of course Mel Kiper Jr. is one of those guys that said this guy was the guy. Now, granted, do I think you give up on this guy considering what he's been able to do thus far outside of being hurt off and on this season? I think there's a lot to be said about this offensive line. I think that's one thing that you can say. That you can't deny the fact that Will Levis is a competitor. And ultimately, this is going to be one of those games that could test the fact as to whether or not he is going to have a job in 2025. Now, I'm not sure if he is going to have what it takes. But as far as I'm concerned, he is not disappointed me. But he's had a couple of games that would actually shock you if you're, like me, a skeptic of Will Levis. But, however, do I believe that the Tennessee Titans have the right roster? Not sure, because there are issues within their defense as well. They haven't been that great on the defensive side of the ball either. And when you struggle on the defensive side of the ball, yeah, you're ultimately going to have issues. And it all started when L'Jarius Sneed and Quandre Diggs ended up on IR. So, but looking at this team, this is going to be a huge test to see if they're the bottom of the barrel or if they're in full rebuild mode. And the Jacksonville Jaguars the same. Not much to look at from this standpoint, it was impressive to see this team rally behind Trevor Lawrence, even though so many people think that this guy's not the franchise QB, who he was initially placed on IR. And they've got quite a few guys on IR from this receiving corps. So, I mean, you're talking about a lot of guys whom this offense has had to learn to, really play without. But defensively, they're pretty much intact. So, as I said before, it would not surprise me if the Jacksonville Jaguars were able to take this game. Mac Jones has been playing a lot better for the Jaguars. But the issue that I have with the Jaguars is they just have not been able to sustain their level of play. I'm just not overly sure that Mac Jones is going to be able to get this team together. Now, they're not, like I said before, the injuries are not as vast, except only in the receiving corps. They've got Etienne, Tank Bigsby, and Dearness Jones in the backfield. And I honestly believe this is where they need to go. They need to run the football. But honestly, I think Jacksonville has the upper hand, being that they have the most guys, not important guys not hurt. But I still think ultimately it's the play of Mac Jones. I look at Will Levis as being much more efficient throwing the football as of late. So for that reason, I'm taking the Tennessee Titans. Then we move on to the 3-9 Jets visiting South Beach and the 5-7 Dolphins. Now, the real question in this game, being that Sauce Gardner and Breece Hall are not playing this week, is whether or not this Jets defense is going to be able to slow down the Miami Dolphins offense. I don't know if they can. I mean, this defense has been a shadow of what it once was. And the scary part about this for the Jets is that they are in full-blown whirlwind. And this ain't good. Right now, you're looking at a possibility that you could sit. I mean, I'm going to say it like this. Why Aaron Rodgers is still playing, I don't know. The Dolphins, on the other hand, are trying to get into the playoffs. They're not mathematically done. However, they have to get a win here. And the Jets have continuously lost since they got rid of the GM, head coach, and everything but got rid of the OC. So, looking at this and you're thinking to yourself, what else can we do if we're the Jets? You pulled off a stunner 21-13, and it looked like that you were about to get it turned around in week 10 when you won 21-13. And even myself, I thought that you had it turned around. Apparently not. So, looking at it from this standpoint, you got hammered by the Cardinals, and then you lost a heartbreaker 2 weeks ago to the Colts. Same thing with the Seahawks last week. So, I'm of the belief that you just need to go ahead and shut it down. Same thing, with this Breece Hall situation. You're not going to make the playoffs. What do you gain out of finishing strong? All you gain is you lose possible draft picks. As far as this game goes, I'm looking at Miami. Miami's got a good opportunity to sneak in. So basically, I'm going to say in a nutshell, I think that without Sauce Gardner, I think this game is a wash. I think they end up going out there, and hopefully Rodgers and a couple of these guys don't get hurt. The biggest question you can ask is, can Braylon Allen bring some life to this team to finish the season? So I'm taking the Dolphins all the way, and they improved to 6-7. Next, we've got the 6-6 division-leading Falcons versus the 10-2 Minnesota Vikings. Now, I'm not going to get into the Thursday night game. I will do a show all on that about how horrible the officiating was in that game. But that's another thing, guys. The officiating in the NFL and college football has been suspect at best. You get certain games where the officiating is very good, it's flawless. And then you get some, it's just absolutely horrendous. So, as I said, the Atlanta Falcons come in as probably one of the most, I guess you could say, one of the most up and down teams in the league this year, next to the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, this is a team that has looked like they could be. I mean, this is a team that has beaten the Eagles to this year. And then there's some games where they have looked absolutely horrible. I mean, they have looked absolutely horrible. So, with that being said, I still have to say that the Atlanta Falcons are a football team that still lives and dies by its defense. A lot of this with this team is just not playing well. And I'm referring to a specific player, and that would be Kirk Cousins. So, yeah. But I think this is a situation where you got Minnesota and you have who Sam Darnold is just doing a phenomenal job for them. Aaron Jones is being that little spark that they need from the running back position. And then, of course, Justin Jefferson he's not having a career year, but he's having a huge impact. 68 grabs, he's over 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns. He did a lot of his damage early. And now what you're seeing is this football team able to get other guys like Jalen Naylor and Jordan Addison, and now with TJ Hawkinson coming back. To me, this offense got better. It got better and it got more diverse. And this is a scary thought when you think that Justin Jefferson hasn't really been involved the last couple of weeks. And this could very well be one of those games where once again that they start balling out again. As well as, having certain groups of players in that defense. They're actually you've got guys like Stephon Gilmore who will be out tomorrow. You got guys like Shaquille Griffin, Byron Murphy, and Fabian Moreau. Guys that nobody really wanted. And then you still got the ageless wonder, Harrison Smith, who's still out there leading his team, doing what he does. To me, this is an easy look. And then you've got Blake Cashman, who is just doing a phenomenal job coming over from Houston, one of the top guys. And then what else can I say about Andrew Van Ginkel, who's one of the silent terrors in the league, got 9 sacks in the league. This guy is a terror. You got to look out for this football team. Their defense they are just one of those teams that if you come up against them, they make you make mistakes. And as I said, with Jonathan Greenard, he's got 10 sacks on the year. You got 10-9. Almost a new version of Salt and Pepper here. But I think Minnesota gets it done. I think Atlanta falls down out of first place. But it wouldn't surprise me the way the Falcons have played this year. They play up to their competition. So it would not shock me if I saw Atlanta pull the upset, but I'm going with the Vikings. We got another game that has really no relevance, and that would be the Saints visiting the New York Giants. Now, this is going to be an interesting game because ultimately, when the Saints have been just absolutely ravaged by injuries. As you heard, Taysom Hill was injured last week, and you see Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave already on IR. This football team has just been absolutely done in by injuries, and them hobbling into this game, coupled with a team that is trying to find its quarterback of its future, more than likely that's going to be in the 2025 draft. You've got two teams that basically, in a nutshell, are trying to find themselves, look and see what they can do in the, getting into the draft. I look at it as which team is going to want this win bad enough. Ultimately, you've got guys on the New York Giants roster that, from Drew Lock to Tommy DeVito, trying to audition for other places, as they've got several linemen on with injury designations, including Malik Neighbors, which I don't understand this one anyway. I'd go ahead and shut him down for the year. This is no way I'm actually going to play Neighbors and risk getting him hurt. There's no way I'm doing that. As well as they've held out several guys on the defensive side of the ball, with the exception of Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns. I would not be surprised if these guys get pulled. Banks is already not playing. This is one where I'm basically telling Giant Nation, I'm done. You just go ahead and, you're 2-10. What are you playing for now? But I'm looking in this battle of futility. I look at the Saints to pull this game out because it doesn't do the Giants any good to win this game. They're right now battling for the worst position in the league and the first pick in the draft. Now the next game is the $3 million game. It's the 3-9 Carolina Panthers and the 10-2 Philadelphia Eagles. Now I know plenty of you are probably going to say, how is this a $3 million game? Well, there was this guy that put a bet for about $3 million that the Eagles were going to win this game. Now, ladies and gents, I ain't putting no bet that big. Because with these Panthers being 12-point underdogs and the way they've been playing, I get it. They're last in stopping the run, and Philly is pretty much top in the league running the football. And I know it doesn't look like the right thing to do or the smart thing to do, but guess what? I'll take my chances with that. This is one of those that can hurt your feelings. Now, when we look at the Philadelphia Eagles and we look at their schedule, now they are winners of 8 straight, and they've had some really good wins on this resume. You look at it, they've got a blowout of the Cincinnati Bengals. They've got a close win against the Jaguars, a blowout of Dallas, a close win against Washington, blowout of the Rams, and then last week's come from behind win against the Ravens. Look, this has all the markings of a trap game. Let me explain to you why. Do you guys know who is on the Eagles' radar for next week? Try the Pittsburgh Steelers, people. Can you say trap game? Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, how in the world would this be a trap game, being that they've got the Steelers coming in and they have no type of way of stopping the run? Well, it's like this, ladies and gentlemen. We can sit here all day and we can try to predict how the National Football League is going to go. That's impossible. Because the reality of it is this league was created with parity. Now, we can sit and say, okay, this is the worst team and this, that, and the other. Well, we can do that. But let us look at what it really is and call it what it really is. They can look past this football team. And when you start looking past people, when you really start looking past people, it becomes an issue. And honestly, I'm not saying that the Eagles are going to do that, but it's very possible that they could look. The Carolina Panthers have nothing to play for except pride and to get better, which they have done. The Philadelphia Eagles, however, when you look at where they're trying to go and what they're trying to accomplish, when you look at what the Philadelphia Eagles are trying to accomplish and where they're going, the truth of the matter is they've won 8 straight. And I'm not saying that this football team is taking this team lightly. I'm not saying that at all. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to hit me up and say, oh, well, you think Philly is just doing this and doing. No, that's not what I said. And this is where I really get sick and tired of hearing people attempting to decipher what I'm saying. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm simply saying is that the Philadelphia Eagles have been playing really mistake-free football for the last 8. Well, not necessarily mistake-free, but they've been playing victorious football for the last 8 weeks. And they've been very fortunate to get by. And unfortunately, what happens is some of those mistakes start to catch up with you. You start to play lackadaisical, and at some point you can get complacent. And once you start getting complacent, things can happen. And when things start to happen, guess what? Somebody takes you out. Now, as far as the Eagles and their running game, do I think the Panthers can slow them down? I'm not real sure. Saquon Barkley is the equivalent to, do you guys remember that NBA basketball game back in the day, Hang Time, when, you know, he got on fire? Right now, Saquon is in a zone for the ages, people. And right now, I would not want to see this guy in any way, shape, or form. He's running like a madman. He's really out there in another position that nobody else wants to play with. He is jumping over guys. He is just absolutely playing out of his mind. And I'm still taking the Philadelphia Eagles to win this game, but don't be surprised if Carolina comes in and runs this game into a serious place where the Philadelphia Eagles are almost in a position to say, what happened here? Next, we get a rematch of that fun Thursday night division showdown between the 3-9 Cleveland Browns and the 9-3 Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, do I think the Thursday night game was a fluke? I absolutely do not. And there's going to be a lot of people that are going to disagree with me and say they think it was a fluke. I don't think it was a fluke, because here's the true blue reality. Anything can happen on a Thursday night. And here's the thing that I don't understand for the life of me. Why does George Pickens not shut up? I mean, this is a dude that seemingly just cannot get out of his own way. You know who he reminds me of? Deontay Johnson. Why is it that Pittsburgh always gets... It's like they have some kind of spirit hovering over their receiver room. I'm going to be the... I don't understand it. You know, you just got rid of Johnson. Then it seemed like Antonio Brown was that dude. Then it was Chase Claypool. It's like they got an spirit hovering over that receiver room. Guys with all this talent, they just can't shut up or get it together. I don't get it. But looking at this game from a different point of view, I don't know. Pickens could come out and he could ball out. He's a guy that I got on my fantasy team, guys, and I don't know what to think about him, because for one thing, he just can't keep quiet. I mean, if his game flipped as fast as his mouth did, those games that you see when he's actually balling out, this would be sick, y'all. Because you can't deny his talent. He's very talented. He's an all-world wide receiver, and if he just kept his mouth shut, he'd be one of the best, arguably. But I'm looking at this game, and a lot of people are going to say, well, I don't know if this game's going to be this and it's going to be that. I have a question on that, because they're healthy, them being the Steelers. And honestly, when I'm watching this game, I'm thinking, okay, could there be a repeat here? There very well could be a repeat here. Now, Jameis started to show those Jameis Winston turnovers again last week, and that's never good. I think that's a product of Jameis getting, sad to say it like this, but him getting comfortable. I hate to say it that way, but that's what it looks like. An issue that I feel like that made this game was, of course, Myles Garrett and that pass rush that they have in Cleveland. Is it going to be a big deal this week? Absolutely. It's going to be a huge deal. And unfortunately for Pittsburgh, they ain't had an answer for it. And the reality of it is, and if they don't get one, the same result that happened Thursday night a couple weeks ago is going to happen again. Which is why, despite whether it's snowing or not, it's still going to be cold. I'm still going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers, because this time Pittsburgh's defense is going to show out. I think Jameis is going to turn the ball over more than he did in that game in Cleveland. I think that's going to be the difference this time, you guys. Game that has upset written all over it as well, except there ain't $3 million on it. That would be the 2-10 Raiders versus the 6-6 Buccaneers. Now, once again, as we come down the home stretch, you're going to have a lot of questions that arise because right now you've got the Falcons playing a playoff contender. And now this week you got the Buccaneers squaring off against truly a team that's in it for the draft. So, needless to say, the question runs, does Antonio Pierce go out here and does he really put his best into this game? And the answer that I have to that is more than likely yes, because Antonio Pierce is trying to build character. And there's no character building or retaining traits when you're continuously losing games. However, I will say they are utilizing Brock Bowers to a very, very high extent. However, you got Michael Mayer on this team too. Second round pick, tight end. Brock Bowers ain't the only guy you got on this team. And I don't understand why when you have a guy like a Brock Bowers, if you could put Mayer and Bowers on the field at the same time, yeah, I'm not understanding where this is going, but it needs to change. I mean, there needs to be an idea of what you're going to do on offense because here's the thing. Max Crosby ain't going to keep sticking around here knowing that you guys ain't got a clue. And believe it or not, the Buccaneers are going to bring their best because they realized last week they escaped with one. But they do have Bucky Irvin, who is questionable for this game. KJ Britt is also out along with Edwards and possibly Taki Smith. So you're talking about 4 guys on this defense that are going to be missing. The Raiders can run the football and possibly, to me, this has got all the makings of Brock Bowers having another great game. You got him in your fantasy game team, start Bowers. And the Raiders need to figure out some way to get Michael Mayer the ball because this is going to be an all tight end type game. This is going to be a big tight end game if they can get them involved. But ultimately, I see Baker and this offense being able to get off and do what they do. I don't see any reason why the Bucks can't go to 7-6. And with me believing the Falcons are going to drop to the Minnesota Vikings, they take over sole position of first place in the NFC South, and more or less they'll run away with the division after this because I don't see the Falcons being able to recover from this collapse that they've had. Kirk Cousins is in a slump. They might as well go ahead and start Penix. 7-5 Seahawks versus the 6 against the all of a sudden slumping Cardinals. And this was a team that, in my opinion, went on a 4-game winning streak and won 5 of their last 6. Now all of a sudden find themselves losers of 2 straight. And nearly upsetting the Minnesota Vikings last week in Minneapolis. They've really been the victims of some bad luck, I must say. And ultimately, Kyler Murray is starting to play so much like the player that everybody thought he was when he first came into the league. He's looking more and more like that player that we saw before he got hurt. But the difference is he's more mature. He's really starting to make his claim as a really good quarterback in the National Football League. The only question I have now with him is whether or not they can get this offensive line to another level. Because reality is that they're still not where they need to be. Defensively, they're doing great. I think Budda Baker, you would think the way this team slowly started to lose players that they were not going to be able to perform to a top level. But this Cardinals defense has been impressive. They've done a great job balancing the run, and Kyler's done a great job being able to make the right decisions this season. And yeah, you can really look and tell that he has really took the time that he had and basically started to read defenses better, and he started to make the right plays. As I said before, with 2,600 yards passing, 13 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Now, that doesn't sound like much. Now, because he was racking up the points and the scores, but the reality of it is, it's a step in the right direction. They're becoming a more of a run-oriented type offense, and that's exactly what you want. Now, stepping back a little bit and you look at what he's been able to do with Marvin Harrison. Now, this is going to be a problem, in my opinion, despite the fact that Trey McBride has been his number one option this season. 73 catches, 781 yards. The truth is that when you look at this guy and you look at how Kyler Murray has been able to sustain his good play, Trey McBride has been the perfect safety blanket for him. He has been available. He's found ways to get open. But then we have to go back and we have to look at what the Seattle Seahawks have, and then you got to look at what they have in this secondary, which is really good. I really like this secondary led by Kobe Bryant, Julian Love, and Devin Witherspoon. But they are going to be without Trey Brown tomorrow. But outside of that, you're looking at a really good Seattle defense. And Geno Smith has done a great job just quietly managing this team. But look at it. He's got 32-41 on the year. 13 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. And it's a classic case of good Geno, bad Geno. When he's good, the Seattle Seahawks have been pretty much unbeatable. When he's thrown interceptions and fumbled the football, they've lost games. But he's got his guys all this week, from Noah Fant to Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith-Njigba, who has finally been able to break out of this his shell and become the guy that they drafted last season. 70 grabs, 829, 4 scores. Making a deadly dynamic duo, which I said it was going to be eventually. But how this game goes, I'm not sure that they're going to be able to contain this right now. Now, do I think you could easily say that every single game that the Seattle Seahawks play, turnovers become a fact? Both of these guys are turnover prone, but I believe that this is going to be one of those games, being that it is such a huge game and a possibility of the NFC West being on the line. I think Arizona wins this game. I think they win this game and tie up the NFC West. And it's going to be because of James Conner, believe it or not. Then we've got the 425, or the big game of the day, if you will, which is another NFC West contender going up against the 10-2 Buffalo Bills. The Rams have a chance to get back in the NFC West race. It could possibly be, by the end of the day, we could have a 3-way tie for first place at the top of the NFC West. Do I think the Buffalo Bills can walk into LA and pull this win? Of course I can. But not today, my friend. Buffalo's been, and this is a classic case of Buffalo has been entirely too hot for too long. Look at this. They have 6 straight wins. And they got that big win against Kansas City, and they walked all over San Francisco. They've got Detroit next week. Can you say trap game? This is the one reason I like Los Angeles in this game, because of this game right here. They've got one game left on their schedule to prove to everybody they got it going on. This is why I like the Rams in this game, because the Rams need this game more. They need it more. They want it more. And this is what they're going to do. They're going to go out there. They're going to give them a dose of Kyren Williams. They're going to give them a lot of Puka Nacua. And honestly, they've been challenged in a lot of ways, but the Rams have lost a lot of games on their own. They have. There's been a lot of games where Matt Stafford has just not been good. And honestly, I will say that when Stafford plays well, this offense is tough to beat. This offense is arguably one of the best, if not, execution-wise. Kyren Williams, as I said, Matt Stafford, and Cooper Kupp, and Puka Nacua. But also, this defense is getting a lot better. as well as looking at what this Buffalo defense has had to not necessarily deal with, but they've had some serious questions at their receiver positions. Now, Amari Cooper has solidified those, but Keon Coleman as well as Dalton Kincaid are questionable for tomorrow. But guess what? They've got Curtis Samuel and they've got Dawson Knox coming off the bench. And they are at full strength with Greg Rousseau, Daquan Jones, Matt Milano back. And this defense has really rounded itself out over the last couple of weeks. And the reality of it is, even though this Buffalo defense is ready to go to the next level and take on the role of the villain against the Kansas City Chiefs, this is going to be one that gets them refocused. I believe this one's the one that gets them refocused. I got the Rams in the upset. Because I believe that Allen is due for one of those games. James Cook is due for one of those games. And Buffalo is due for one of those games. That's all. Then we have the 4-8 Bears facing off against the 5-7 49ers. Now, a lot of you are going to say, I think it was Mina Kimes that said she expects big things out of the Bears and why they will win this game. Now, I will say that I am very much surprised, being that Christian McCaffrey's season is pretty much done. But you still got Brock Purdy. You still got Debo and Jawan Jennings and George Kittle. But I will say, being that Trent Williams is out and Aaron Banks is out, as well as Nick Bosa being out, I would say this. If I'm the 49ers, I get it. You're still in this. Statistically, you're still in the NFC West. I don't think you're in it if you lose this week. I think you might as well go ahead and shut this thing down. But even then, why would you even want to get in the playoffs if you can't win the Super Bowl? What's the point? Why even go that far? I wouldn't. And then you've got, of course, Thomas Brown stepping in as the interim for the Bears, looking for big things out of this offense. And, you know, Mina was basically saying she expects this team to do some different things. I'm not so sure. Because right now, DeAndre Swift's health is in question. DJ Moore's is. You're already missing Ryan Bates. He's going to be out, and that's your center. But defensively, you're only missing Elijah Hicks. Where I have an issue with the Bears, you do need to play Caleb Williams. I get that. You need to play your starters because Caleb's got to get developed. However, guys like Montez Sweat, DeMarcus Walker, Kyle Gordon, Kevin Byard, Jalen Johnson, Tremaine Edmonds, These guys don't need to be playing. These guys need to be done. I mean, what are you doing? You ain't going to win the division. You are not going to win the division. So what is the point? But I am going to take the 49ers. I'm going to go against Mina. I think ultimately the Bears are going to be able to do some things, but I think ultimately you're going to have guys like Edo Gross-Matos and Leonard Floyd are going to have a pretty good day along with Khalil Davis. You're going to have a good day getting to the quarterback. I think this is going to be a game where Caleb Williams is going to introduce himself to guys like Travarius Ward and Jair Brown and Renardo Green. And the 49ers inch one step closer to possibly jumping back in this division race. Then you've got the 8:20 game. You've got Harbaugh and the Chargers walking into the frozen confines of Arrowhead to face the 11-1 Chiefs. Now, I'm not a big fan of cold games. You guys know that. You guys know I'm not a big fan of that. And the reality of it is, the Chiefs got a wake-up call a couple of weeks ago when they got beat by the Bills. Then they turn around and almost got. Let me back up when I say a wake-up call. Because the truth of the matter is that the Chiefs have been playing scared all year. They've been playing with house money all year. And the reason being is they're the champs. And I'm not going to go to the officiating. Officiating's been bad in every Chiefs game we've seen. But the reality of it is, you already know when you walk into a game that you're going to get the other team's best. You already know that. You got Patrick Mahomes, so that's your ace right there. And this week, to me, this game means absolutely a lot. Now, they've got a game against Pittsburgh in a couple of weeks, but this game right here against an 8-win team can really be a jump start to your playoff. I'm going to say it like this. I believe that the Chargers are here to make a statement. They're here to make a statement. And honestly, I get it. No J.K. Dobbins. This is going to turn into the Justin Herbert show because they really don't have a guy that scares you in that running back room. Ladd McConkey is questionable. That's going to be a huge difference maker here. And then you've got Denzel Perryman going to be out. So, I have questions of my own here, whether or not they're going to be able to sustain a pass rush effective enough to beat Mahomes. Now, we all get it that this Kansas City Chiefs team has not been very good recently. They have been very good all season, if you ask me. But do I think they have enough defensive juice to get it done? I don't think they have enough offensive firepower. Now, this offensive line is very good. But the problem is when you're talking about the offense, I look at it like Gus Edwards is a sledgehammer. But I think Hassan Haskins needs to be the guy that's running this football. Just saying. Think he needs to be the guy running the football, and you'll get more because he's not necessarily a game breaker, but he's a guy that can get down the field and get it done. However, I think in a game like this, I think the Chargers are going to be able to do what they do because you do have Mahomes, but you don't have certain elements. Do I think the Chargers can get this win on the road? They can, but they won't be able to. I think the running back position is going to be the difference. That's going to do it for the previews for Week 14. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you Facebook page at Gridiron Gab Pro Style and check out all the stuff we got going on over there. Also, go to my Instagram at Mr. CeeLo and let me know what things you want me to talk about, as well as check out the other shows that I'm involved in. Hope you guys have a happy Sunday. Stay safe out there. Make sure if you go to church, make sure you go and get your eat on afterwards. And if you got snow, make plenty of snow angels. But until the next time, same Gab channel, same Gab platform.
But behold, there is a warm breeze that comes from the west. The blazing sounds of victory fuel their everlasting quest. It is a call to arms, for they are here. An army that has the will to challenge and the will to dare.